All right, then. Thanks for staying with us on the program. We have in our studios a revered economic analyst and a public affairs analyst as well. I'm talking about none other than Dr. Aliyu Ilias. Welcome and thanks for joining us on the
Thank you for
program.
having me. Good morning.
Yeah, I saw a number of your economic projections captured on some of the print media, but let's start at the very top in some uneconomic related stories as it concerns some congratulations coming in from Mr. President following the swearing into office of the new Edo governor. But it also comes with some contrasts as the Daily Independent says that the president has assured Nigerians of an end to our most challenging times. I don't know what those promises are based on or what the renewed Pope mandate feels is the most challenging period. But
Right.
side by side to that swearing in and that comment, do you see the correlation?
Anyway, it's a two discussion and a two-way discussion. First and foremost, congratulations to Monday Okpebolo. He's now a governor. It appears to be much more underdog compared to other people simply because he does not come to media to talk. So, most will now see him translating this opportunity to a better development for Edo State. That's our wish for Edo State. Talking about Mr. President that said, how does he capture it again? That's
Our most let's pick up that paper
our
together
most
and look at it.
challenging.
No, let's pick it up so that we'll get your perspective as well on the Daily Independent. Just for context and would visit
Most
it.
challenging economic
Yes,
period now
most challenging
over.
economic period now over.
I'm sure the convener of the message maybe he is trying to add it is or our own. I think it's vice president, right? That actually
Yeah,
represents
that
the
represented President Bola
president. So,
Ahmed Tinubu.
so, but if you look at this, there is no sign, any sign at hand that it's a bit over. You are deep in the challenges of the economy, and he actually said that we should endure, that there will be light at the end of the tunnel. We've not even got to the middle of the tunnel, if you ask me, because according to even World Bank, they said that we need to continue to endure for the next 15 years. But for me, I think President Bola Ahmed Tinubu need to do more. You need to see the reality, because I don't see President Bola Ahmed as a president who can reverse his decision. If you notice, most of what people have been complaining about, he has not been able to really bring them back. So I don't see an end in sight for the problem. Perhaps we have not seen the relief. Let me give you a good example. I like to go through CNG. The day he actually became president, he removed fuel subsidy, right? And he said this, so a lot of things will come on board. A refinery will come on board. CNG will be available. I can tell you up till now, we don't have our refinery working, and that's about 1 year, 6 months in power. So that shows that his first tenure is almost half of his first tenure is about to end. Now he also said we will have CNG. I can tell you how much I queue every time I want to get CNG. So that means there is no
You've been able to do
availability.
the conversion
I've
now.
done the conversion.
Now just to refuel your
Just to
tank.
refuel, and conversion doesn't come cheap. I convert at 900,000, and that's why I said it's not more for the poor. I can also tell you how I do Adashi, Ajo. What was the third
Just to
one?
be able to raise
To raise
capital.
900,000 at this point in time. Now, having raised it, we have challenge of where to actually get it from. And NPC is trying to come up, but I can tell you they have not gotten it right. We could see that.
So the
Most
one
of
you
us,
used was the NIPCO station here in the FCT.
yes, the only people that can actually supply you a reliable CNGs is only NIPCO. NNPC is still fluctuating. In fact, there's what we call pressure. That's another balance that comes with CNG. You cannot get more than 3, 4, 5 pressure from NNPC. Why if you go to NIPCO, you get at 12, 13, and depend, and they are reliable. In fact, NIPCO start at 6 a.m. close at 10 p.m. But you can't see NNPC that is much more of Nigeria. Nigerians what have you. They start at 9, and those people, the Indians, it's at their own whims and caprices. They can even off the compressor. So I don't know what's actually happening. NNPC need to do more to make sure that this actually come easy. So for me, looking at these two things, there's no end in sight for the challenges we are in Nigeria.
Well, Dr. Aliyu has used the CNG situation to assess the comments coming in from the presidency on an end to our most challenging economic period, saying that if we don't have cheaper fuels and even the alternative in CNG readily available, he doesn't think that those projections are actually factual. Now, in keeping with more comments this morning, especially on the projections going into the economy, the position of our Naira against the dollar in what is now called the FX volatility has also been captured from different perspectives. The first question on mind is the position of Nigeria's foreign reserves earning. I know earlier in the year, the CBN governor came under fire, had to respond to comments saying that we're using our reserves to try and fight the exchange rate and find stability for the Naira. Over the year, as the year progressed, we saw that even the exchange rate, which many were applauding, is now quite higher than many are seeing.
Very, very high.
Let's start with that projection now on where Nigeria's foreign reserve is at the moment in regards to what is being currently experienced.
Right. I think in terms of foreign reserve, I think this government is trying to really build up our foreign reserve. No, you know that it's like a cushion, how do I call it, and a shock absorber to the economy. So if we actually increase it more, it might give us a benefit. But the thing is this, forex is very, very dynamic, and you must learn. And now that Trump is in now, that's another thing we must also
exactly. I was hoping you would make comments on that, because people were linking his emergence to being president to Nigeria's position as it concerns our foreign earnings.
Right. For me, it's going to be much more tougher, because one of our source of foreign earnings is diaspora remittance. So there could be a law that will guide those people in diaspora not to actually remit anything they want.
Especially with the president's position on migrants. Exactly. He's been very vocal about how much he doesn't like migrants.
Beyond even migrants, he said American first. So that simply means if you have a lot of money, they may find a way that, no, don't send it out, invest it here. A lot of policy could come, and that may shock the Nigerians and whatever. But for me, I think to grow our foreign reserve, it's a very good thing. Then issue of forex, I don't know how to really express this better, but I think this our CBN governor has not gotten it right at all, because he has come up with different framework. Remember, he said people with crypto is the problem, we arrest some people. He said BDC, we bring BDC from 5,000 to 600. He said a lot of things, bring a lot of policy framework to make sure dollar is down. And you could still see now that dollar is still very, very high. And that's the bane of our problem in Nigeria, because like I always say, first subsidy removal is not the major problem. Floating of Naira is the major problem, because what the gain of first subsidy removal, even for federal government, has been eroded by this forex problem. Because before, when you share 600 billion within this FAC allocation, FAC and the state and the federal and the local government, you could see that it make more money. But now that you even share 1.3 trillion, it doesn't really reflect, simply because the value of the Naira has been depreciated and it has been eroded.
Now, there are also projections from the fintechs that this depreciation would see even cross the 2,000 Naira per dollar mark. Do you think that these projections are anything to go by? Right.
If you look at circumstances in terms of forecast, there is no any indication that shows that Naira will be appreciated. And perhaps, like I said, we have to look at trade policy of this American now. We have to look at foreign direct investment. You have to look at oil itself, and before you now look at diaspora remittance. So if you look at those four things, you discover that there is no sign that we're going to have reduction in the value of dollar. It will continue to soar high, and that's probably, and that November, December also have its own volatility in terms of demand for dollar and foreign currency. People want to travel, a lot of things want to happen. That may also shoot the value of dollar up against the Naira.
Now let's also look at some of the editorial perspectives as captured on two newspapers. First, on The Guardian. The Guardian is saying that there's some hope for the exchange rate going into the Yuletide season. And despite the negative forecast coming in from fintechs, you'd find the headline, Yuletide offers hope for weak Naira amid negative forecast.
Okay.
The challenge is people are going to be buying more.
No. At this period, they are banking on diaspora remittance.
Okay, and that's the perspective now.
Yes, for diaspora. Because what happened now is that naturally, you see that Nigerians abroad tend to come home or tend to send something home at this point in time. So that could be, and you will recall that federal government declared a huge improvement in diaspora remittance. Perhaps a dollar now have more value in Nigeria. So people will now say, okay, this is the best time to invest at home. So if you have some money right there in anywhere in diaspora, I think this is the best time. I have $1,000. It means a lot in Nigeria. Let me send it back home. So that could be why the fintech are looking at that, and I agree with them, because we're actually enjoying diaspora remittance at this point in time.
Now, whilst the fintechs and the projections are that those abroad, especially for people who have relatives in the US and probably the UK, more money will be coming back home for the Yuletide season.
Right.
While that is a perspective of The Guardian, the Nigerian Tribune looks at it from the negative in terms of manufacturers who are looking for this money in order to be able to import some of the materials they need to manufacture. The Nigerian Tribune captures their plight. It says manufacturers groan as Naira floats, deepens forex crisis, highlights soaring exchange rate at 1,900 Naira per dollar as key driver of sector's challenges. 16 major firms incur 792 billion Naira loss.
Right.
That's a huge one.
I think it's the right time that Nigerians should reverse some of its policies. And the major policy to reverse at this point in time is that a floating of Naira. No country in the world will leave its currency to the willing buyer and willing seller. So let's assume this is how government want to do. Why don't create a window for manufacturer that if you truly want to import from so come and take this at 1,000 Naira.
But there's already the importer-exporter window. Do we need a separate window to
No,
that?
it's important because it's important for that, because if you don't do that, it will still make these people go out of businesses. Remember, MPR is very high. You cannot go to bank to borrow now as a good businessman. You want to tarry and look at how things actually play. Secondly, you need forex, and there's no manufacturer, big manufacturer, that will not need forex. So there should be a special window that we can actually access to do this, because if you don't do, and that's why we are able to control that dollar. Remember, if you want to travel abroad, then before the floating of Naira, you can go to the window. You get, is it PTA they call it? You can go as DTA, PTA. You can actually access those money. But now it's pretty difficult. So for me, I think it's not a good one for this economy that you have removed the first subsidy and you have also floated Naira. It's a two contradiction, because if you look at it now, one is supposed to be helping one to balance, but now you throw the two at the point of a willing buyer and willing seller. It's a serious problem.
All right, so in keeping with more conversations this morning, let's also take a look at another pressing issue in the news, and it's on the part of corruption. Whilst Nigeria's national grid has collapsed for more than 10 times in the year 2024, the EFCC, in a statement this morning, is faulting the electricity contractors who are saddled with procurement. They said that substandard products in our electricity sector are the reasons why the national power grid is collapsing frequently. My question every time such story comes to light is, if you have this credible information and the hard evidence, other than telling Nigerians, why not begin prosecuting those who you believe are corrupt individuals sabotaging the stability of our power grid?
You just took it out of my mouth, and that's what I was about to say, because I wonder why our institution like to play to the gallery, because that's what it appeared to be. Since you have your evidence, you have your facts, go after these people. Let us hear that they are in court. Let us hear that they are being prosecuted. Now you come to Nigeria and now be saying because they buy substandard. Then what do we call procurement? Procurement, sometimes we need to be very, very careful. When they are issuing out this contract, the process should have tamed this kind of people. Because procurement, have to do with sourcing. From sourcing, you have to evaluate people before you now select. If you look at those process, it's a long process that we should not take it for granted. And we also have Bureau of Public Procurement. So I think at this point in time, maybe there should be a special scrutiny, for all these contractors, because if you give them that opportunity, and they could not do it in silos, they also have, people in that agency that are actually supporting them. And that's part of why procurement actually came to life, that you must be able to look at what they want to supply, the quality of it, because you must have advertised, get different alternative, different quotation, get technical ability of those people before you can select who to give. So that they supply substandard. I think the person who actually approved that contract should also be tamed. Not only the contract, but somebody must have given that contractor the opportunity to actually carry out such a substandard work. So for me, EFCC should stop playing to the gallery. They should be much more professional. Go after these people, prosecute them, and let Nigeria know when you prosecute them.
Now, the other angle is many are calling for the removal of the Minister of Power, Chief Adebayo Adelabu, saying that his performance in office has been short of commendable. Do you think it is much of a fault of the minister as it concerns where we are in terms of some of the challenges affecting electricity supply in Nigeria?
Right. You know that when President Bola Ahmed Tinubu said he will reshuffle, he will remove, he will do other things, I was thinking within my mind that maybe we'll have that man also being changed, also being relieved. But to my surprise, that simply means he's still satisfying the work president actually gave to him. But beyond him, we could see that this collapse has been happening, and it's a continuous problem. I listened to the man from NERC when he was making a case for old grids and what have you. But I was thinking, if you look at what we have expended right from President Obasanjo up to now on electricity, Nigeria should have been Eldorado. So that means there's something actually wrong in that sector that we are not doing very well. Well, for me, I think we should unbundle the transmission because we have actually privatized the generation. I can tell you those that are generating enough. Our problem is in the area of transmission. So is that we unbundle? Unbundle is the best, whereby transmission could also go to private sector because it's as if it's still in the hand of government and it's being centralized. Though Adelabu also came and said he was going to decentralize the grid itself so that if one is having issue, another one will not be having issue. By and large, Nigeria is in darkness. I can tell you now. A state like Bayelsa has been in darkness for the past 3 months. And there's nothing we are doing it. Meanwhile, in the north,
some states
also have having issue. But we seem to be making more case for the north, while the other parts also we are not making much mention of it, especially bias. So, and I was in Kaduna maybe 2 weeks ago, and I saw the impact of the grid collapse. I can tell you a lot of businesses are losing out because like the hotel, they need to use generator 24/7, and that has eroded their profits there, and they must sustain their businesses. Let's also look at the small businesses to buy petroleum product or diesel now to service your generator or appliances. You know how it actually costs. So I think you need to do more. So in terms of Adelabu, is it part of his challenges? For me, I think one thing Adelabu should be careful about is his utterances, because most things that you say, you can say Nigeria are on culture that they always on the lights at 247
and leave the refrigerators
on. Those type of loose statement, I would say, shouldn't be coming from me. It should be more professional, and when he's talking, maybe he should be guided by his people that are handling him. But in terms of his performance, I think we still have some time. President Bola Tinubu need to teach it. But I was also thinking that area should always be given to professionals, because if you don't really have much more knowledge, it will take you like a year to actually understand the process. And that's why before we were thinking former Governor Rufai will be the Minister of Power. That's what we are expecting. So for me, will it have been different if Rufai is the minister? I think I like to go with yes, because we would have turned things around beyond what it is now.
There's also the issue of this characterization, band A, band B. A lot of persons are also clamoring that they be downgraded back to band B because they're not enjoying as much as 20 hours of electricity. In going forward, this metering project that the president has also keyed into to be able to give Nigerians value for their money, are you hopeful that much will be done differently in 2025?
Right. I think in my house, I used to load for band A. No, I used to load for like band B. At a point, I discovered that when I loaded, it was band A. I shall have to call a meeting in my house. Hello, this power, we have to reduce how we actually use it. But suddenly I saw that it has also gone back to where it used to be. But the power also had also come down, right? So I think that's part of the issues. But there's what is called CAPEX and OPEX, operational expenditure and capital expenditure of the discos. Up to now, I have not seen a report that actually shows how they're actually expending for capital expenditure or operational expenditure, and that's where Nigerians should look into very well. Because recall, if you have a pole problem or metering problem or even a transformer problem, it's supposed to be their own responsibility. But you agree with me that it's mostly community based, that handle it, because before you wait for them, things would have gone bad or for a long time. So I think that area also needs to be looked into very, very well. If we have a reliable power supply, our development will not be at this level. It would have helped us, because I can tell you most businesses have actually closed shop because of band A. Because even just to barb your hair, barber shop, you see that they have increased their price. So everybody is looking for another alternative. Perhaps go to the old one, old style, whereby you keep your hair and scrape everything. Nigeria has been how do I call it? Being pushed more to the alternative at this point in time.
Well, we also understand that more newspapers are coming in this morning. We'll look at one particular newspaper that also has an editorial perspective in light of Nigeria's electricity supply. The Leadership newspaper just coming in this morning will be greeting your screens shortly, and is also on the situation with the epileptic power supply in the country. On the Leadership newspaper this morning, you'd find that headline: epileptic power supply in North may last longer. Single circuit supply Northwest. Connection bays unavailable. $1.661 billion for infrastructure mismanaged. EFCC beams searchlight on discos. One of the shocking statistics here is the $1.661 billion for infrastructure that was mismanaged. Now, the North has been one of the most, would I call it, most unlikely or unlucky places in all of this. And some voices were also saying that the president might have been targeting the North, which the presidency came out to refute. But with this humongous amount now being mismanaged, do you think that there should be more searchlights beyond the EFCC looking into this situation?
Right, I think it's very, very important, and that's our major problem in Nigeria. You know, we seems to handle things with Ezekiel's glove. I would say most problems we don't tend to go and look at the root cause of the issues, because there's an investment on this area already, and the investment are not being taken care of. Is it well supplied? Do we supply the original, just like the way what's name, the EFCC tried to beam searchlight on it? I think we must start from source. If people, these people, you recall, I think it wasn't this president Bola Tinubu, there was this man from the Ondo Ekiti, there was former power minister also, that was actually called to interview by EFCC. We've not got to see the outcome of it, and that's the problem. So we must be able to tame, because if you don't really bring people to justice, you know, other people will come and think it's a normal Nigerian cake. Let me have my own, actually go. And now look at the suffering now that is going on in the North, and it's pretty difficult at this point in time to bring an investment of that humongous amount to the North. Now the problem is that if I thought the investment start now, is it going to bring immediate succor? No, it may even take 6 months, 1 year, and look at them languish in in darkness. That's a serious problem. So we must find a way going forward, and that's why I said I want them to unbundle that transmission. You know, if you unbundle that transmission, it may come to private to an extent, because a private person will profit oriented. You know, they won't take things for granted. Go to Shiroro, go to Jeba. You see those people that are generating power, they are generating it 247. Have you heard that the Gencos shut down? You cannot hear that they shut down, but the problem is always the transmission, and that's the major problem. Then I also now want to urge the North, since now that we now have electricity at a recurrent level now, whereby everybody can invest in that area. I think it is good time now. I learned Ekiti just give what do we call license to about 9 companies to generate, distribute, and maybe generate, distribute, and transmit power there. And that's what we should see state coming up with. Look at Enugu, they have started their own. So North also should start doing that, so that we can all invest in this electricity, because you know what, to invest in that sector is very, very huge. So state governor, state government, or regional, we now have regional governments now. So regional governments should start investing in that area, so that it will attract investors and they will come in to invest more.
Now, in keeping with more stories on the position of the government on some issues that have gained controversy. Well, this morning, statements coming in from the Inspector General of Police is an insistent position that the police arrested criminals, not minors, in the #EndBadGovernance protest. Now, there's been a lot of reports on different angles to that story. The pictures that Nigerians saw in the courtroom, those who received compensations from their state governments. There's been some disparities in the faces in both of those videos and pictures. Some Nigerians are crying foul, but the most shocking one now is the position of the IGP. A lot of Nigerians laughed at the lawyer's comments. Even his colleagues who were standing behind him in that video
were laughing.
Now, is this becoming a laughable situation?
Right. I think President Bola Ahmed Tinubu need to call all his handlers or all his ministers, IG, to order, because you know what? Do you recall that the first person who came out then was the Fagbemi? the Chief Justice of the Federation. He said no, there are no minor can be sued to court, and a lot of issues come about it. Now, if you look at the case, it's not well handled. In the first place, how will you arrest people? Let's even keep minor. For a good 3 months, you didn't try them, you just locked them up, let alone minor. It is clear that they are minor.
And we saw how malnourished they were.
How malnourished they are. In fact, they are very, very 13, 14, 15, 16. They are minor. So you must be 18. And you could also see that police also learned their last lesson. And that's why I wonder why he's now coming out now. You know, he said they don't have a department that actually handle minor cases.
The juvenile
section. Now they are trying to train their people on it. So why is he coming out again and try to bring about different messages? So I think the way they communicate in this government, we need to look at it because they will go front and also combat. That's a serious issue. The fact remains that those people we saw on the screen are actually minor. A minor can commit an offense, but there's a way you handle minor. Not that you keep them and do not feed them, they'll be malnourished, they'll be fainting, and you can also see that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is also trying to score or try to shine. Even the governors, after that, they now have to clothe those people, take them through the airport and also handle them to the governor. So the governor is also promising them to give them free education. You can see how to really damage control and what have you. So that's a serious issue that we must be very careful about. Also, some people are also crying foul. That doesn't mean when you commit crime and you are minor, you'll be celebrated. That's why we have. So for me, I think government should have keep this thing more lower compared to the way it comes to limelight, that everybody now see the weakness on the part of the government.
Well, it's a position of how those minors were tried despite compensations coming in. Comments from the IGP this morning, as captured on the Standard Times newspaper, has also invoked some controversies online on the juvenile trial system of minors who are capable of having caused an offense. While the allegations bordering on treason have been discarded, some of the charges bordering on destruction to public property also remain a concern. And much like Doctor has said, are they being celebrated for destroying public property and vandalizing taxpayers' monies that were invested in the critical infrastructures they destroyed during the protest? Now, whilst that is the case, the position of state governors this morning again has come under the microscope under the topic of the new minimum wage. The Vanguard newspaper had earlier this morning told Nigerians that only 12 states have begun implementation of the payment of the new minimum wage. 7 states are silent on the issue. 10 more states are promising that come the end of this month, November, they will begin implementation. But more worrying is the position of 24 states that have not even looked at the conversations of paying the new minimum wage at 70,000 Naira. Now, Doctor, whilst this is the case, the NLC has pegged December 1st as a date when they would embark on strike if all the states, as I've mentioned, are non-compliant.
It's quite saddening that we have governors who actually swore to represent people, protect them, take care of their welfare, and now going this route. Now, it is a collective agreement that there will be change in minimum wage. And apart from that, FAC allocation also increased throughout the state. There is more money for you now. But what is stopping you from even mentioning it? Because maybe it has to go with national state assembly and a lot of what is stopping those governors. And that's why I have issue with this issue of FAC. I think there's some intervention that should go outside FAC that the president can directly handle. Because for me, if you get more money, federal government does not have right. That's my challenge now, to say start new minimum wage at this period, because I'm giving you another level of what and another level of FAC allocation. That's a serious problem. So what are those governors using their money to do? It's a very surprising thing. And you notice that most governors are not even talking about it. They just keep silent and nobody's. So I support NLC, but recall that when government give a law that if you don't do your local government election, you will not get allocation. Have you seen all of them? every state has done the, so there should be a conditionalities attached to that, that if you don't pay your
workers the new
minimum wage,
you
will not get
far.
allocation. That's very simple. So government must federal government must also go through that route to actually do that, because they may say, no, state have autonomy on what to do and what not to do. We are not saying pay the minimum. Some, we have seen states that are paying 80,000, we have seen states that are paying 72, we have seen states that are paying 70,000, but why others are not even saying anything about it? And as federal government also start paying his own, that's another problem. Though he said he's going to pay backlog since May, but that's the problem. So I think government should condition these states to say that if you don't start this new minimum wage by January, you will not get a FAC allocation.
Well, it's an interesting development, and whilst this was earlier captured on the Vanguard newspaper, the other perspective to this is the implication of the strike action on the part of NLC. Whilst the states that are compliant might be exempted from the strike, how much can more states take in terms of a shutdown of economic activities going into the Yuletide season at this moment?
Right. I think this has to do with different states. Some states have good understanding with their NLC, while some states did not have a good understanding. I pray that even some states will not buy over their NLC chairman in their state. But the thing is, I support that any state that has not done anything, there could be a strike. Strike is an instrument that the NLC actually have, and they have given you warning. And when you say it's December 1st, today is 14, I guess. So you have
13, yeah.
13. So you have like 2 weeks to make decision. Anything can happen in a good state assembly. Within 1 week, anything can happen. It's just a pronunciation. In fact, according to NLC, they're not even saying that you must start it now, but there should be an action towards how much you want. But they just keep mute. There was no discussion on it. So I think NLC is in the right position, because I can tell you now that we are in trying time. How can you be paying people 30,000 at this point in time? Even the 70,000, if you bring it to dollar, it's about $38 or what have you. So how much would that even take? Can I even buy a bag of rice? And now look at, we are going to Yuletide season that people need to do a lot of expenditure. So I think it is the right time for them to actually go into that, using that their instrument of strike.
Now, let's also look at another newspaper this morning, which also has some comments you made in terms of the situation with the landing cost of petrol. Dr. Aliyu Ilias' comments were also captured on print media as the Blueprint reports this situation. Major energy marketers, Nigerians groaning despite low landing cost of petrol. Marketers exploiting citizens, says the NLC. And now comments coming in from Doctor, competition will drive down the price.
Right.
990 naira is what Dangote is telling us as the landing cost. Now, how much competition does he need to bring that price even lower?
You know, as an economist, our first thing that we believe in is competition. So when there's competition, it will reveal the true price of everything that you do. And that's where NNPC has actually failed. They are supposed to take the lead for the competition. And by how? By making sure our refinery actually work. But if we have refinery working, we'll have something to actually compete with Dangote. Dangote will not come and say it's 990 or nothing. Right. And Dangote will also not say they should not import. For me, I want Nigeria to start importing. You know why? America has 132 refinery and they still import. Saudi Arabia have about 5 refinery and they still import. Why they importing? Is to balance the competition. If you don't allow competition, we will not enjoy this sector. Remember, we are susceptible to global markets and forex, and it's affecting the cost of land. So I recall that even most of those marketers have done what is called forward contract. What I mean, they must have a deal with other people they import from for 1 year, 2 years. How do you want them to just jettison their deal? So for me, I think there should be room for, perhaps we only have only Dangote working. So, and perhaps how we said we need 6 million liter per day or so, and it can only do half of it. So why will you now say nobody should import? I think Nigeria government need to be careful about that, because that has actually happened in other sector that will have Dangote, such as cement. Cement is 8,800 naira now. Imagine if there is room for competition. I'm not sure it will be up to that. Look at sugar and other commodities that does not have competition. So for me, and recall that even petrol is a global product that should be allowed to come in and out. He also said South Africa are keen to buy from him. You're also exporting. So why you now say people should not import? if they allow people to import, I think that will bring true price because I know that landing costs will not be up to this price is actually giving. So government should key into allowing competition in the oil sector.
Well, this challenge is also from the perspective of what many people are calling the quality of Dangote's petrol. Now, there was the mention of Lamborghini fuel, and I don't know if we're going to be seeing another characterization of purity of fuel products vis-a-vis the price in the Nigerian market. Where does this conversation even have ground?
I think NNPC, NMDPR, NUPRC should stand up and do their role because like Dangote is taking their role because you could see some information that's supposed to come to NMDPR, NUPRC or NNPC is coming out through Dangote. I know his media, he's trying to use media to actually do more in terms of canvassing people for his product, but NNBPR should come out and say this is quality, this is not quality. That's what we expect, and that's their responsibility. Shouldn't be done with telling us that one is fake and one is original, or one is substandard, one is standard. No, we don't want that from them. NNPC, NMDPR, NUPRC should come to do their role, and we should know that yes, this is what we actually buy, because we will not hold Dangote responsible. We are going to hold them responsible. But I pity the state of NNPC now because they are like marketers as well. Yes, they're not like they are just not no different from them. Do you have any refinery? The answer is no. Even the CNG we are talking about, do you know that it's NIPCO that is supplying NPC CNG? I can tell you that.
So this tag of being the sole importer, do you think that tag is justified if NIPCO is not the one even supplying NNPC?
That's the challenge now. That's what I find difficult to understand. So NIPCO is one supplying CNG, and you could see an Indian people doing that. I don't know why Nigerians cannot start doing that. And an Indian man will say until he arrives before they can actually sell. And you tell them not to go and press the compressor or anything until he's there. And that's why we are doing it in about 8 NNPC that we have in Abuja. So we have to rely on NIPCO. And that's why I said NNPC is like marketers now. They don't have any power whatsoever because it's like they are not facing their core responsibility, which is to actually find a way of making sure that there's availability at every point in time. So imagine NNPC is also a buyer of fuel of petrol PMS from Dangote. So how would they now want to control Dangote? But I think they have their own 2 refinery working. You can use that to actually affect the competition. So it's a sad scenario we are seeing in Nigeria today.
Well, in the words of Dr. Aliyu, the situation is quite sad, but leaving the petrol supply chain alone and looking at Saturday's election in Ondo State as a mega rally has also been held by the APC with the vice president in attendance. Projections are on the trade of words between the APC and PDP. It's getting even heated going into the polls. Campaigns are supposed to stop 24 hours before the polls begin. But this usual banter between these 2 major political giants, do you think it would, rather than create a heated atmosphere, people are talking about the need to have votes count and have people not develop voter apathy going into Ondo elections?
Well,
what do you make of this?
It is a tale of 2 deputy governors. They've actually both worked with Arakunrin Akeredolu over time. But my challenge is that if you look at the dictionary of election in Nigeria, I think Ondo states come very, very high. They've had a lot of issues over time. And we have also seen when Labour Party was not Labour Party then, a Labour Party man ruled the state also. So it is serious competition. I think it's much more healthy, if you ask me, because we have an opposition that is giving the incumbent run for its money. You could see that the PDP candidate is also canvassing because according to him, he was a local government chairman, he was House of Rep member, he was deputy governor. Now he's competing for governor. It's a strong trajectory for him, but we want the role of INEC to be much more clearer, and it must start. If I was thinking they will relieve that INEC electoral commissioner, simply because they say he had tie with with the states, and he also they are linking in with the incumbency. I know with the power of incumbency there's a lot of things that we need to be careful about too. I saw CDD, Center for Democracy, where they bring out their report in terms of balancing the candidacy, and the fear of the citizen there is that there will be a rub of by the incumbency. They also talk about security. You could see, you recall that state also bring about Amatekun.
And they're asking Amotekun to stay off the
Exactly, that
elections.
that's another issue of it. So a lot of things is actually happening in that state. So I think government need to be careful about, especially we want to urge the federal government to bring down. They shouldn't use their instruments as incumbents to actually overwhelm that state, because that will be counting for them as well. Having have a Edo election on their way already, they've sworn in the new governor there. So I think we need to be careful, and INEC should be upright. In fact, INEC have every election to redeem their image. So this is another challenge for INEC to redeem their image again.
Now, whilst Dr. feels it's a challenge for INEC in terms of a redemption of its image, another newspaper is just coming in with more reports ahead of the Ondo Guber polls. The Nigerian News Direct has more on this as we look at it together. It says Ondo Guber, PDP, APC fights dirty over alleged plot to manipulate election, as PDP insists on redeployment of REC over alleged APC ties. APC has engaged people with development projects, not manipulation, says party chair. Now, this call for a deployment of the REC, many have talked about the fact that she grew up in Ondo State.
And she's from Ekiti.
And she's from Ekiti. Why she says she's not from Ondo State, people say that her family house has been in Ondo for the longest, so we cannot say she doesn't have...
I think she lives around the boundary. So for me, I was thinking government should have do the needful and change the REC. That would have bring a lot of issues, that would have balanced the argument. But as it is now, it's as if the woman is still towards the incumbency compared to how, that's the unbalance we are looking at. And that's why we must find a way to balance. Though it appear to be very educated, they will choose what they actually want, and they are hoping that their vote will actually count. And that's a major test for this president as well. We must see that it's free and fair. As we have seen, they have a lot of CSO looking at what is actually going to happen. But looking at the build up towards, because I watched their two debates, I think they are two good individuals who can actually take the lead. But the thing is, the power of incumbency is what we're actually looking at. Perhaps this PDP person was former APC too. Remember, he actually contested against the late governor as well in his second term. So let's see how it will play out.
Now, the position of personal interest and the credibility of the election, I don't know, it's not much of a Nigerian thing, but we see it happen in other climes. When people question your credibility, some people just outrightly step down from the position of being the resident electoral commissioner. Do you think that will come to a place in Nigeria where when persons challenge you like that and you know that you don't have any intentions, you say, you know what, I will step aside for this one?
I think it has happened in judiciary where people recuse themselves from cases. But we hope we will see it one day from the electoral system. But I think the head of INEC should be able to do that at any point in time. When you see controversial issues, controversial appointments, and it's under your your purview, you should just make the difference. The only thing is, I saw EFCC at Edo elections, you recall, they were there, but we've not seen them bringing anybody to book. That's a problem.
And there were incidents.
There were incidents, so that's why sometimes, when you hear those cases, you want to see how the thing actually turned out to actually be. Then vote buying has gone beyond, I'm giving you cash. So they need to go scientifically and also study things as it actually of it. The main buying of election has commenced now, not on election day. So if they want to actually cut people, they should be there by now, and their ear should be on ground there.
Well, as we move into other issues with less than 15 more minutes to wrap up this segment on the show, another pressing issue is banditry. It is returning whilst the government of the day is strongly scoring points against Boko Haram. There's a new sect which we hear this morning that has been around since 2016. The IRA Consultative Forum is the one telling us this story, but we have two newspapers with perspectives on banditry situation in Nigeria. The Daily Trust, and we'll look at the Matrix. Let's look at the Daily Trust. The Daily Trust this morning is telling us about the situation in Kaduna where bandits have burnt a maize farm. And the implications is that the farmers' livelihoods is gone, and this might drive up food prices and even worsen food shortage. The Nigerian police says it is probing the incidents. Let's quickly also cross over, because of time, and look at the metrics before we take doctor's opinion. On the Matrix newspaper is where you find the Arewa Consultative Forum. In the headline on the Matrix, ACF opens up on Lakurawa, says terror group has existed since 2016. DSS, Army, Police are aware of group existence. Northern Group seeks deployment of 40,000 troops to curb menace.
Right. I think we are
since 2016.
Yes, correct. It's even 2015. So I don't know. Maybe this paper is looking at it from 2015. 2016. They actually identified these groups because they appear that they came from Mali and what have you. So they are in that environment, and they keep on. They came as if they are actually supporting and helping the community until they change. They are imposing fines to guide the community, and before they kill people. They left at a particular time. Is around 2018? They still resurface again, and that's a weakness on the part of our security.
Especially with border control.
Exactly. Beyond border control, for me, I think every local government should have intelligence. 774 local government, they are not too much to have 100 intelligence from DSS, and other security agencies. Because once, in fact, let me give you an example. There's a time I went to a southwestern state, and I went to a particular mosque to actually pray. Do you know, after they studied me 1, 2, 3 prayer, they just came around and surrounded me. Gentlemen, who are you? Who do you come to see? Can we know you? If I myself, I will have to explain this is who I am, this is what I came for, I'm actually for this, for that. That's how every environment should be vigilant at this point in time. But we have serious issue in the north, because you see different people from Niger, from Cameroon, from different places. Once they can, in fact, funny enough, these Lakurawa people, they could not even speak English. That's the major. Hausa itself, Fulani don't speak. So that's where you start the suspicion for who are you when you cannot even speak our language. You tell us where they should profile these people.
And we also saw some videos going viral.
Right.
Some of them gathered in their hundreds, and they're also enticing youth, saying that they will give them $1 million Naira to join ranks with them to be able to fight the government of the day.
These are the problems that we're actually having, because people are susceptible. They should not have even come into that environment, let alone convincing Nigerian youth. I think that's where the weakness actually comes from. So I think at this point in time, they should just go and flush them out. That should be the case. And we don't want to see show to gallery. The new chief of army staff has just went to Sokoto. That's not what we want to hear. We want to hear actions, continuous actions being taken. If not, these people will overwhelm that community. Before overwhelm the state. They have overwhelmed the community already. It is the state that's struggling to actually take themselves. You will recall that we have a lot of issue in Kebbi and Zamfara. I think that case has been traced down to these people now. It's a serious issue that we must tame.
Now, on one other battle Nigeria is fighting, it's the final newspaper we'll look at before we wrap up this segment. The first newspaper looks at the battles Nigeria is fighting against diseases. Now, Lassa fever and meningitis have also killed Nigerians in their hundreds. Let's look at some of the statistics as published by the first newspaper. It says Nigeria battles deadly Lassa fever, meningitis outbreak. Over 500 deaths reported across 28 states. 1,035 Lassa fever, 380 meningitis cases confirmed. Nigeria's health facilities, we talk about primary health care and the challenge with the doctor to nurse ratio being among some of these issues.
According to Ngige, say we don't have shortage of doctor and nurses, we have enough. But the thing is, we have one of the best health personnel as minister now, and he's one of the
Professor Alipati.
Yes, and he's an expert in vaccine. He knows more. Someone who has worked with Gavi, and other big agencies. So I think he should bring his knowledge to bear. For me, I think the issue of Lassa fever needs to be controlled beyond. There should be vaccine. Perhaps, if you notice this Lassa fever, it's over around a particular area. I think much more of Edo, Benue that actually suffer Lassa fever. So I think there should be a serious satellite on that area and know the existence. If it's is it rat they call it that is causing?
Yes.
They should find a way
the vector
of eradicating that's actually that. So but by now we should go, because we cannot continue to have same cases for over 30 years without solution. It falls short of expectation that the same problem continue to happen year on year for over 10 years to 30 years. There's no vaccine, to curb it. There is no, so I think it's much more environmental. If you ask me, this meningitis and look at last, it's much more environmental cases that we can actually look into. So I think we should do more. So we are challenging the new minister as he's doing well. He just also declare free cesarean session
yes.
for women. I think that's a good one. And he also, remember, his portfolio is not only Minister of Health and welfare. So I think we need to do. I also think by now we would have much more health insurance beyond what we have before. We've not also seen that. So I think he should do more. The onus is on him at this point in time.
Well, I must thank you for taking our time to be on the show this morning. We appreciate you for your objectivity to the issues in the news.
Thank you for having me.